Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Jay Tanner, and today Em is going to be joining me. Hey guys, I haven't been around for a few weeks because I've been dealing with an unexpected medical emergency. I'm still working with my doctors, but I'm doing a lot better than I was. I'm happy to be back and making some videos for the channel. I might not be here for every upcoming video, but I'm gonna try. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel while Jay was holding down the fort, and thanks to everyone who sent well wishes and thoughts and prayers for me. I really appreciated it. It's been tough, so it helped a lot. But with that being said, let's get to the video. Today we're looking at episode 3 of season 5 of Netflix's She-Ra. This episode focuses on Catra, and it's supposed to be the start of her redemption arc, although in my opinion it doesn't do a very good job. Catra's done a lot of terrible things throughout the series, but they remember they want her to be redeemed, so they shoved it all into the 5th season. The problem is she did so much, but they expect us to forgive her after maybe one good act. But I don't think she showed enough character growth in season 5 to really warrant it, and I don't think they did enough to make up for her past actions. We open on a flashback to Adora and Catra's childhoods. Catra's running away and crying, and at first I assumed she was running from Shadow Weaver, but it turns out she was actually running from Adora and the other children. Adora calls out to her, telling her to come back. Apparently Catra hit Lonnie and started some kind of fight. We don't get to see what happened, so it's kind of hard to judge, but Adora says that she knows she didn't mean to hit Lonnie, although this is the girl who scratched out Octavia's eye just for standing too close to her, so it's not that hard to believe that she would attack Lonnie too. Adora says that they were just having fun, and questions why she would hit Lonnie in the first place, but also says that if she apologizes, Lonnie will forgive her and they can all be friends. But instead of explaining herself, Catra attacks Adora, scratching her across the face and making her cry. I think these flashbacks are supposed to make us more sympathetic to Catra, but for me they kinda had the opposite effect. That was pretty messed up. I feel bad for Adora, not Catra. She's the one that got hurt. Maybe if we had more context, but based on the information we're given, it seems like Catra was the aggressor, especially against Adora, and she's just trying to reach out to her. But the writers really want this to be sympathetic, so they're gonna play it like it is sympathetic, even though it's not. Back in the present, Catra is watching another planet being attacked by the Horde. Things aren't looking good for that planet. But Catra gets up and starts wandering the ship again. It looks like one of the clones is following her, but she comes across two divergent paths, one that's light and one that's dark. She starts to move but literally runs into one of the clones, who comes out of nowhere. Where did he come from? There were only two paths and we saw they were both clear. She gets annoyed and asks if she's being followed, which is pretty obvious, but the clone says that they're here to attend to her needs, and apparently it's Horde Prime's command. She says that if she's a prisoner he should just make it official, but he might still think she's useful to him. They claim that she's an honored guest and they're there to make her stay more comfortable, so she runs off smirking like she got away from them. Does she realize how many clones are on this ship? She ends up running into another clone, and this one tells her that this part of the ship is off limits to her specifically, and calls her by her name. He's also more stern with her than the other clones are, so it's pretty easy to tell that this is Hordak. She points this out and says he must remember her. She calls him Hordak and then reminds him that he doesn't like her. He gives her this canned response that they're not supposed to have names. She actually says that it's okay and the name thing can be their secret, and just says that it's good to see a familiar face. He tried to kill her like 3 times, but I guess desperate times call for desperate measures. Hordak goes back to telling her that this part of the ship is off limits, but this time he calls her little sister instead of Catra, so she just walks away. But he does look after her. It then cuts to the B-plot with Bo, Adora, and Entrapta on Mara's ship. However, this subplot is mostly for comedic purposes, with Bo being the only one that's taking anything seriously. I think they were trying to add some comedic relief to this darker episode, but it ends up feeling kind of jarring, like tonal whiplash. Bo's trying to triangulate Glimmer's position, but Entrapta wants to make upgrades to the ship while they're flying in it. Bo thinks it's a bad idea, but Entrapta thinks that she can boost the ship's speed. He insists they keep the ship intact until they reach Glimmer, and then cut to Adora accidentally hitting something with her spear, because she's trying to train in the middle of the control room. So Bo basically puts them in timeout, saying that they can't move until they get there, only for the computer to shut down because there's a problem and it needs to preserve energy. So now they're basically stranded in space. The ship is 1,000 years old and barely holding together. But this is basically what this subplot boils down to, them just having trouble with the ship and Bo freaking out. Back on the flagship, Glimmer's trying to escape her cell by throwing a chair at the containment field. I don't expect that would work, but I can't fault her for trying. Catra shows up, and this time she talks to her directly, sarcastically asking her how the escape attempt is going. Glimmer rolls her eyes and asks why she keeps coming back here, and Catra just says she's bored. But Glimmer calls her out and says she's lonely, because why would she risk getting caught by Horde Prime when he specifically told her not to talk to Glimmer? Catra gets annoyed at being called out and starts to walk away, but Glimmer stops her and admits that it's good to have someone to talk to. I get they're stuck on Horde Prime's spaceship, but it's kind of weird that Glimmer made Adora cry by accusing her of being the reason her mom is gone, but it feels like she's not being anywhere near as hard to Catra. Even though Catra is the real reason her mom is gone, they're kind of just palling around. It's just kind of weird to me. They sit back to back and Catra asks Glimmer what she would be doing if they were on Etheria right now. Glimmer says she would be visiting the other princesses around Etheria, but if it was a really perfect day, she, Bo, and Adora would be having a sleepover and eating cake right off the platter with their hands. Catra says she and Adora used to have sleepovers too, and Glimmer asks if Adora was always restless in her sleep, which Catra says she was, and that she can't relax to save her life. Doesn't it just figure that they would be talking about Adora? But Glimmer admits that she treated Bo and Adora horribly the last time they were together, and she hopes she gets the chance to make it up to them, which is appreciated. At least she recognizes that she did mess up and she wants to fix it. Glimmer asks Catra what she would be doing if she was on Etheria, and Catra says there's nothing for her there and gets up and leaves. Well, Catra, that's what happens when you push everyone away and ruin every good thing in your life. Back on Mara's ship, Entrapta offers to fix it, and she's decided to name the ship Darla. Bo says they'll have to fix it, but they have to be careful. So Entrapta disappears into the ship, and Adora promises not to touch anything. So Bo rushes off to try to help, leaving Adora alone, only for the control panel to start smoking. She calls out to Bo, but he's already gone. She tries to block the steam with her hand, although wouldn't she get burned doing that? But then a bunch of cords pop out from the control panel. So this is the whole subplot with the ship, them just bumbling around trying to fix it, and nothing really gets accomplished. This seems like it would have been the perfect opportunity to have them discover things about Mara in the first ones. After all, they have an excuse to go looking through the ship, but they don't come across anything. The comedy wouldn't bother me as much if we had been getting answers too. There are still so many questions, but they don't really seem to care about giving us answers, since they have opportunities to do so, but they don't take them. There's gotta be something interesting to find on this ship, but they don't give us anything to work with. Meanwhile, Catra's wandering around the ship when she comes across two clones walking into a room together. She becomes intrigued by this, although I'm not entirely sure what makes this behavior suspicious. Regardless, she starts to spy on them. The room contains some kind of teleporter. One of the clones beams the other onto a nearby planet, which Catra finds interesting, but on her way out of the room she runs into Hordak again. He gets taken over by Horde Prime, and he tells her to come with him. Catra's led to where Horde Prime is, and this next part's a little confusing. He tells her that they saw a ship leaving Etheria, but apparently this ship is too old for their instruments to track it. I just find that hard to believe. They saw the ship leave the planet, and he has so many ships under his command. They can't even casually follow it? But he asks Catra what she knows about it, and she says she doesn't know anything. He's not really buying it, so she says that she and Adora are not friends and she doesn't know any of their plans. So he tells her that he knows she's been talking to Glimmer, so he wants her to get any information out of Glimmer that she can. Catra says she doesn't think Glimmer will give her anything because she doesn't trust her, but again, he's not buying it. So she starts saying that Adora is her enemy and she would give up any information she could if she had it. So Horde Prime starts saying that Adora causes her nothing but pain and he can fix that for her. So he calls Hordak. Horde Prime says that he and Catra had been talking earlier and he wants to know what they were talking about. Hordak says that she gave him a name and then begs for forgiveness. So Horde Prime takes him over to what's basically a baptism pool. The showrunner Noelle Stevenson talked on Twitter about how she apparently based the Horde off of megachurches. To the surprise of no one, she's not a fan. So this scene has pretty much every stereotype and cliche you can think of crammed right into it. Hordak walks into the pool and is basically electrocuted, while the other clones stand around and chant about how all must suffer to become pure, and so on. I'm not sure if they expect us to feel bad for Hordak. He is guilty of war crimes. Look at what he did to the Scorpion people. Frankly, he deserves a lot more punishment for what he did to Etheria. But oh no, Hordak, what did he ever do to deserve this besides everything? dying, oh no. But he comes out of the baptism, and his eyes are white now, and Horde Prime says that he's been cleansed or something. And all the clones chant around him. Catra's horrified, but yeah, we get it. It's very heavy-handed, but I am surprised that Catra's having this kind of reaction to Hordak being tortured, since he did try to kill her like 3 times. She might just be worried she's next. The scene ends with Horde Prime strongly suggesting that Catra do as he says. For a character who's supposed to be based on cult leaders, he doesn't act very much like a cult leader. A lot of the time, cults use manipulation tactics in order to get people to do what they want, but for the most part, he's just threatening her, and she's obviously horrified by it. But that's obviously gonna scare people away. A cult leader would need to gain their trust first, before they start hurting them, and then trick them into thinking it's their fault. It's like they didn't do any research on actual cults, and are just going off of their personal biases on organized religion. He's more like a straightforward supervillain who believes he's already won and is very confident. He never had the chance to be a cult leader villain, because everyone knew from the beginning that he was a bad guy, even before he showed up. A cult leader needs to trick people into thinking that they're a good guy, that way they can manipulate and use them. So not a very convincing cult, but an effective bad guy. Glimmer is messing around with a chair leg, and it breaks off, which she's really happy about, cause now she has a weapon to use, but she hears someone coming so she sticks it back on the chair. I'm not sure what's holding it in place, but whatever. It turns out to be Catra, who's escorted with a clone to Glimmer's cell. She asks the clone to give them some privacy. It agrees to it, but then says that Prime sees all before closing the door. I think it's supposed to be their way of saying goodbye, but it's a little ironic because she asked him for privacy, but I digress. Glimmer asks what's with the babysitter, considering the fact that she'd been coming alone before, but she offers her the box that she brought with her. It turns out it's a piece of cake, and she calls back to their conversation earlier about how Glimmer would be eating cake if she were back on Etheria. Glimmer thanks her, but then Catra gets defensive, saying not to think that she cares about her or anything, like she's some kind of tsundere. Although I think she's more of a yandere than a tsundere. But she says that she needs Glimmer to answer her questions. She asks her if she knows anything about a ship that left Etheria a few days ago, and Horde Prime can't track it for whatever reason. Glimmer is so shocked by this that she drops her cake. What is it with her destroying the food she's given? So wasteful. Anyway, Catra can tell by her reaction that Adora is on the ship, but Glimmer begs Catra to stop this, because she knows what'll happen to Adora if he catches her, but Catra says it doesn't matter because Adora's coming there anyway to save Glimmer, so all she has to do is let it happen. Great attitude, Catra. Glimmer pleads with her, saying that Horde Prime is just going to toss her aside when she's no longer useful to him, which is pretty obvious to everyone, including Catra, but Catra insists it doesn't matter because she always finds a way. Again, great attitude, Catra. But Glimmer says running away isn't an option because if he gets to Adora, then he can use the Heart of Etheria, which will apparently blow up the entire universe, and begs Catra to do one good thing in her life. Catra snaps at her, saying she doesn't know her at all, and demands they let her out of the cell, leaving Glimmer alone, and then she breaks down. Back with the B plot, and I use the term plots loosely, Bo finds Adora completely entangled in the wires. He's upset because he told her not to touch anything, especially now that Entrapta's missing, but Adora says that she just saw Entrapta. She came in looking for certain supplies. Wait, Entrapta was there and she didn't ask for help? Why would she do that? But apparently she was looking for a blowtorch and a long piece of rope. Bo questions why she didn't stop her, which is another good point. I guess Adora wanted to handle this on her own, but what if the ship just broke more? I'm pretty sure those cords are important, but she just stuffs them back into the control panel. I'm sure it'll work out. Bo asks her to take this seriously because they're clearly way in over their heads, but as he's talking about how the odds are stacked against them, Entrapta floats behind him. She's made an admittedly impractical spacesuit. That includes a cleavage window, and also her hair is out of the suit. Maybe it's cartoon logic, or maybe whatever magic her hair possesses is protecting it from the crushing void of space. Adora points out Entrapta to Bo, which causes him to panic, but Entrapta explains that she made spacesuits for all of them, and has managed to fix the ship. Regardless, Entrapta's very excited to be in space, but Bo starts to crack, and laughs hysterically, before putting his foot down and demanding that they get back to their posts, insisting that nothing will derail them, only for the ship to black out. So the ship isn't fixed? I guess it is 1,000 years old, but Entrapta insists that she's got this, and uses the blowtorch to project herself through space. Well, that was a productive scene. Moving on. Catra gets called back to Horde Prime, and he's happy because she gave them information that showed where the ship's location is, so they can track the ship. What was all that then? The ship is heading right it for them, so he's excited because he'll soon have She-Ra, and he tells Catra that she did good work and she'll be rewarded. She doesn't look totally convinced though, even though she says this is what she wants. Catra has a flashback while she leaves. It's a continuation of the flashback from earlier, where Catra ran away and hid because she hit Lonnie, and then scratched Adora. It's dinner time and she's still hiding, so Adora goes to find her. She still has the scratches on her face. I'm surprised she's still looking for her. If a kid at that age scratched my face, I wouldn't want anything to do with them. But she calls out to Catra saying that they're having the gray ration bars tonight, so she shouldn't miss it. She finds her and sits with her, but Catra's still not moving. So Adora decides that if Catra's going to miss dinner, she's gonna miss dinner too. But Catra tells her to go and be with her new best friend Lonnie, and she reveals that she hit Lonnie because she thinks that Adora likes Lonnie more than her, and she says that Adora is supposed to be her friend. So Adora reassures her that she is her friend, which Catra's happy to hear, but then Adora says that if she apologizes to Lonnie, they can all be friends. But Catra is not interested in sharing Adora, and she gets really mad. She shoves her to the ground. She refuses to say sorry, and then she jumps on Adora purposely and walks off. Adora gets up again and still runs after her, as Catra yells that she'll never say sorry. How many times does Catra have to hurt Adora before she realizes this isn't okay? I get that little kids can get jealous, and they can act out, but it's clear that Adora reaching out to her isn't working, because Catra's still hitting her, and Adora's being as nice as she can be. This isn't okay, and somebody's gotta tell her she can't keep hurting people. She's basically had problems with jealousy and control issues her whole life, and it's understandable that she would have problems from growing up in the Horde. But the thing is, the other kids are not acting out like this. Adora, Kyle, Rogelio, Lonnie, none of them ever did anything close to all the terrible things Catra has done throughout the series. Catra clearly has deep-seated problems, and I feel like they're finally trying to address it, but these flashbacks are just making her look worse. Oh great, she's been hurting Adora since basically the beginning, and this is supposed to be the main ship of this series. At this point, Catra needs therapy, not a relationship with Adora that they're clearly trying to push. Meanwhile, in the present, Catra sees a vision of her and Adora playing together, and Adora tells her that she's always going to be her friend. So is she hallucinating? Or is this meant to be metaphorical? Because this is a little bit of a concern. The last time this happened, it was because the Crystal Castle was projecting holograms. Either way, Adora is very loyal to Catra, but I'm not sure where that loyalty comes from. She was just trying to be supportive of Catra, but she just got beat up for it. This all made Catra look pretty bad, but this is supposed to be the official start of her redemption. She rushes off to Glimmer's cell and attacks the clone that's going to serve her dinner, and the food crashes to the ground again. Again with the food waste. What a shame. Anyway, Catra calls the clone Hordak and says it's nothing personal. I didn't realize this was still Hordak, but I'm surprised it wouldn't be personal, considering their history. Just saying. She smashes her fingers into the port on the back of his neck, and that deactivates him. I guess that explains why he never bothered to cover that obvious weak spot earlier. All the clones have an obvious weak spot that's really easy to get to. Must have been conditioning from Horde Prime. Seriously, how was he able to conquer the galaxy when his army has such an obvious weak point? Anyway, she releases Glimmer and tells her to follow her, so she comes along with nothing but that chair leg to defend herself. She asks how she's supposed to even know she can trust Catra, but she says that she doesn't have a choice, only for them to run into a clone. Horde Prime probably knows by now. More clones show up and a fight breaks out, but Catra and Glimmer incapacitate them pretty easily, since they can just exploit that weak spot. Glimmer doesn't even have her powers, but she doesn't really need them to take out these guys. Catra takes Glimmer to that teleportation hub she found earlier, and somehow knows how to use it, even though she only saw it from afar. She seals the doors to the rooms so they can't be bothered, and Glimmer asks if she's saving her, but Catra says she's not saving her, she's saving Adora, because she's obsessed with her. Glimmer asks what will happen to Catra, but she says all she does is hurt people. At least she admits that. But she also says there's no one left for her in the universe. Yeah, because you pushed everyone away. Meanwhile, Entrapped has managed to get the ship back up and running off screen, and the ship says they're receiving a message, so they patch it through, and it turns out to be Catra, who managed to figure out how communications work too. Wait, so Horde Prime couldn't track the ship before, but now they can open a direct line of communication? Why doesn't Horde Prime just call them and start making demands? Catra says she doesn't know their exact location, so she's going to teleport Glimmer to their quadrant and they have to be there to catch her, but she is able to send her coordinates. The clones barge into the room, so Catra has to quickly teleport Glimmer away, and before she closes the communication line, she tells Adora that she's sorry for everything, before the line goes dead. bad. This is a decent first step, and I think this is supposed to show her character growth from the flashbacks where she refused to apologize. The problem is it doesn't make up for everything she's done. And in the end, she's not doing this because it's the right thing to do. She's doing this so Horde Prime can't get to Adora, who she's still obsessed with after she victimized her throughout the entire series. Would she be doing this if Adora hadn't come? What if it was just Bowen and Entrapta while Adora stayed behind to defend Etheria? Would she have cared then? I just think this whole thing could have been handled better. Bo tells Entrapta to do whatever it takes to get to those coordinates, which she's just really excited about. You know, space. Bo and Adora put on their spacesuits, and I would like them, but Bo's spacesuit is a little awkward. It has a cutout for his stomach, and I just don't think it looks good. Also, Adora's ponytail is out of her helmet. Let's hope that cartoon logic holds up. I thought Catra was gonna put Glimmer down on maybe a planet somewhere, but it turns out her plan was just to throw her right into deep space. Apparently it's fine as long as she's still glowing, but my goodness. So Bo has to jump to her and Adora has to pull the tether to get them back. Good thing that glowing effect lasted as long as it did, because it wears off as soon as the door closes. Adora asks Glimmer what happened back there, and she says that she thinks Catra saved her, and saved them all. But I mean, she said she was only doing it for Adora. But back on Horde Prime's ship, Catra is captured. Horde Prime isn't happy and tells her that the Etherian ship changed course. Well, it's fine, you guys can track it, right? Go after it? I mean, if you know it changed course, then you can follow it, right? But he says that her interference won't save them, and then he goes on about how there's no distance his light cannot reach, and so on and so forth. You know, more religious sounding things. And he asks how she could betray him. She just laughs at him and says that Etherians are all emotional and what did he expect. She says it doesn't matter what he does to her because Glimmer's gone and he'll never get his hands on Adora. It always comes back to Adora with her, but he tells her she's wrong, that every person has a place in his empire, and that he still has use for her. And that's where this episode ends. I am glad that Catra's finally taking a few steps in the right direction, but I'm worried that the writing expects us to believe that she's just redeemed now, and she's still a long way from that. She's still single-mindedly focused on Adora, and that's not a good thing. Adora was the main victim of Catra's abuse, and she kept reaching out to her and trying to be nice to her over and over again. She gave Catra so many chances, and it's nice that she's finally starting to come around, but it only happened after she did so many terrible things, like destroy the world, and try to drag Adora into the void, get Glimmer's mom trapped between dimensions, destroyed so many things and hurt so many people. There's not really enough time left in the series to fix all of this. They could have just not had her go that far in the first place. Then there's Horde Prime. He is pretty good when it comes to villains who are super confident and believe they've already won, so they believe they can take time messing with the hero, but it seems like that's not the villain they were actually going for. They wanted him to be more like a cult leader, so they could complain about organized religion. Cults rely on manipulation tactics and brainwashing, and Horde Prime is much more direct in his approach. He outright threatens people, and that's not something a cult would do when they're trying to indoctrinate someone into their beliefs. So it's kind of disappointing that he ended up being a pretty good villain, but that wasn't actually what they were going for. At least that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like and subscribe to this channel to see more content like this. Special thanks to our members, Caleb Nelson, Stutania, Tyrant Carnivore, Adam K, and Shiny Orc Boy. If you'd like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And if you'd like to support us in other ways, we have a GoFundMe and a Buy Me Coffee. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye everyone. Bye guys.